The multiverse. The concept of the multiverse is very popular in science fiction. The Spider-Verse in the Spider-Man series exploits this concept, as does the Marvel movie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The idea is scattered throughout the various incarnations of Star Trek. It pops up in the Stargate franchise. It's pretty ubiquitous. The concept of the multiverse argues that the universe in which we live is not the only universe, but that there are in fact many universes variously similar or dissimilar to our own. Science fiction usually exploits one version of the multiverse hypothesis. I put this in quotes for reasons that I hope will become clear later. Science fiction exploits one of the quantum variants of the multiverse hypothesis, namely that our universe is constantly branching into parallel versions, or not strictly parallel, diverging versions. The idea is that every time this universe faces more than one possibility, e.g. turning left rather than turning right, then both realities actually occur. At the quantum level, this kind of possibility exists all the time. Think the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment. No? Okay, think of Sliding Doors, the 1998 Gwyneth Paltrow movie. According to this version of the multiverse theory, there are in fact an infinite number of universes more or less similar to our own, depending on how far back the branching occurred. This idea of the multiverse is not restricted to science fiction, though. It's an actual scientific hypothesis, or a group of hypotheses. This is where quotes are necessary, though, around both scientific and hypothesis, in fact. It's really speculative rather than scientific, even though scientists who propose such ideas are often willing to admit that this is speculation. It's closer to philosophy than it is to actual empirical science. If the various facets of this multiverse are quite distinct with no possible communication between them, then the hypothesis is probably unprovable and unfalsifiable, and therefore beyond the realm of empirical science. I say probably because it really depends on the type of multiverse hypothesis that you advocate for. But I would argue that if communication of some kind is possible between these different universes, then this is not in fact a multiverse hypothesis, but simply an expansion of what we mean by the word universe. In a real multiverse hypothesis, the different universes would be self-contained and completely separate, and therefore, in principle, unverifiable and unfalsifiable by us from within our universe. Now, all of this is, as I emphasize again, speculation rather than science, but it's fun to think about anyway. I like an idea that's different from the quantum branching kind of multiverse theory. I prefer the theory that this universe, and probably others too, are constantly giving birth to other universes, like little bubble universes that drift away from their mother. Of course, this is a metaphorical way of speaking. Space and time are properties of this universe in which we live, or possibly properties of our minds, which have evolved within this universe. I've discussed this idea before. There's no reason to think that time and space exist outside or before, stroke after this universe. And quotes are all again necessary here. So there is no where or when to go. Again, if these bubbles are actually spatially distributed, we're really just talking about a bigger version of a single universe which contains various bubbles. So anyway, I like the idea that the universe gives birth to new universes like these bubbles that drift off. Now these bubbles will resemble their mother to greater or lesser degree. They may have the same physical laws and constants, but variations in the amount of mass, energy present, or in the ratio of matter to antimatter, for example. Or they may have different physical laws and constants entirely. We may be able to live in and experience the former kind, the kind with the same laws and physical constants, but almost certainly not the latter. I like to think that a process of natural selection might occur, such that those universes that are more stable and last longer, assuming time applies, may have more offspring. Again, understand that almost everything I'm saying here has quotation marks around it. There is in fact a concept known as quantum Darwinism, but this is used to explain how the classical world that we know and experience may have evolved from the quantum world, which works in an entirely different way. I'm using this idea somewhat differently. The more stable universes, the fittest universes, have more offspring and go on to populate the multiverse. Perhaps only those more stable universes can support conscious life such as ourselves. Again, I emphasise that this is, of course, just a bit of fun speculation, fodder for science fiction novels, and please feel free to use it. I like it because, for one thing, it fits with the notion of Occam's razor. Now, this is the problem-solving principle that recommends searching for explanations constructed with the smallest possible set of elements. It might sound contradictory or counterintuitive to say that the multiverse, which seems to have many elements, is simpler somehow than the idea of a single universe, which has only one element. But if you have just the one universe, you're stuck with the problem of trying to explain why there is only one, why there is one rather than none, and why this particular one. If universes proliferate spontaneously, you no longer need to explain why there is only one, and this universe becomes one of only many possible variants that have come into existence, the one in which we happen to find ourselves and which supports life such as our own. The answer becomes the same as the answer in the world of terrestrial biology. Natural selection, the survival of the fittest, has led to the rise of a whole range of viable life forms. So too, I might argue, natural cosmic selection could have given rise to a whole range of viable universes. Or maybe this universe was just created in a lab somewhere. And yes, this idea has actually been proposed in an opinion piece in Scientific American in 2021. Who knows, one day we might be able to do it ourselves.